Hey, what is happening, Mark Bare Naked Willie? What's going on, brother?
Oh, Dave, it's a red day? I thought it was a blue day.
Well, it's red and blue. What do you mean? I got blue right there, and I got red on that wall. I got red on. Oh, you must be talking about it's Flannel Day.
Flannel Friday. Folks,
Flannel
I'm
Friday.
sorry, we're changing the name. The show is now Flannel Friday.
F and F. So join. Get yourself a flannel on. You know what? It's wintertime, at least here in the north. Well, it's wintertime everywhere, but for those of us that really feel the winter, such as up here in the Midwest and the Northeast and across these great states, flannels do the job, man.
Oh, they're the best. Except flannel shirts. Those flannel pants, no way. Those are not my deal.
They're not your deal? You mean the flannel line ones or the ones that are flannel on the outside? Almost like Burberry for outdoorsmen?
Yeah, never a chance. I have one pair of flannel lined ones, and that's for those days where you got to shovel, 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 shovel.
Yeah.
And 10 hours later, you're still shovel, 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 shovel.
I know, shoveling and shoveling and shoveling. Looks like Mark froze up for a minute. Oh, you froze up for a second, but you're back. You must have got tired of shoveling.
Yeah. So happy BS Friday, Dave. Where's everyone coming from? Where the heck
Man.
are they coming from?
Man, we are on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitch, Twitter, and YouTube. So if you're not a subscriber, make sure you subscribe. Be one of those folks that are at that 10,000 hours of a month being watched and consumed on Dave Cooper Live. We got some great new content coming out as well. We've had some factory visits and some other tours, Mark, that we are editing and getting ready to release. I'm super excited about it, man. So it's going to be a good year.
Excitement. In the excitement, did I hear you miss the Facebook machine?
Did I miss Facebook?
I know you said Twitter, Twitch, LinkedIn, and YouTube. I don't know if you said the Facebook machine.
Well, I did not. But we will say it again. Facebook. Yeah. Super excited to be on all of these different platforms and be able to spread the message and bring people in from different parts of our industry that are building it better. People that we would call on today's show wicked smart. That's the Boston side of it. So we got a wicked smart person coming on today. Mark, we got the International Builder Show coming up here in just a short 3 weeks. Or less, right?
International Builder Show. Don't use the acronym. Say it with pride. International Builders Show.
That's right. We have IBS, the International Builder Show, coming up. We got a lot going on. Mark, I know as far as you go and as far as I go, we're going to be on the performance construction stage quite regularly this year. We got a lot going on. We're going to be bringing you, for those of you that cannot attend, be on the lookout for some great content that Mark and I will be making and posting while we're out there. So much happening. Mark, I mean, I'm telling you, like every hour, it seems like it just gets busier and busier, which is awesome. I'm so booked.
When I read your itinerary of obligations, I started on Saturday afternoon. I'm not done with it yet. I'm still reading it. And and I've stopped doing everything else. I blocked all my social media. I put a vacation reminder on my email.
Excellent.
And I tell you what, I'm still reading it.
I'm telling you, it just keeps growing and growing and growing. I need to take after my 6-year-old and learn to say no.
Jennifer in the green room said she needs to take a picture of you because she doesn't know how much you'll even see it. She wants to remember what you look like during that week.
That's right. We'll be running all over the place, but it's going to be a lot of fun, right? I mean, the good news about this is, and the reason it's going to be a lot of fun, Mark, is because everything that you're doing, everything that we've been doing at Dave Cooper Live here together and separately has gotten to a level to where it's got the attention of some of the bigger players in the industry. And we're finally getting a stage to speak on and share our knowledge and keep doing what we do. And that's promote all these other great people. What is there something over there?
I'm pointing at you, Dave. No, now I can't point at you when you turn that way. So I'll tell you what, it's great. If there's folks out there that don't have passes, that need passes,
not too late.
Many booth friends have extra passes that they could give away. But those go quick. So if for some reason you don't have a pass, please private message and we'll try and introduce you. And then if you have something really cool that you're going to see, or you have something really cool that you're exhibiting, talking about, presenting about, excited about, drop that, share it. We share, so you share. So the more you share with us, the more we'll keep sharing. It'll go in this year and it'll go out to this platform. in these eyes and out to this platform.
Well,
Keep it up,
maybe
folks.
even bigger than that, Mark. Maybe
Oh,
bigger than
what?
that. At
What?
at 3:30 on Tuesday at the International Builder Show, Dave Cooper Live will be doing our live show on stage in the Performance Construction Zone. And guess what we're going to be doing, Mark?
I can't guess because I might say the thing I can't say.
Well,
So
you
I'm
don't
not
even
gonna
know
guess.
yet because I didn't tell you, but I am telling you public live now because you will be one of the people that we speak with as well. We're going to have influencers, everybody from Kyle Stumpin Horse, who has like 1.2 million followers, and so many others, pick out what they thought was the greatest product that they saw in the performance zone, you know, in that whole area where we're talking about construction performance. What did they find at the show? And we're going to run every 15 minutes a new influencer coming up on the stage, and we're going to share with all of you out there what we thought were the hottest products. How cool is that? Bam! So it's going to be a lot of fun. So make sure you guys tune in or come see us. And guess what else, Mark? Guess what else?
There's more?
Yeah, they're giving free beer.
Free beer.
Free
You
beer.
had me at beer. All right.
Let's get
Can
into
I
it.
wind up with an intro? Are you ready?
I'm ready. I'm ready. Let's do it.
Okay. So we have a senior product consultant from the South, the Southeast, the Mid-Atlantic. How about that? So this is a fierce consultant and builder, right? Who was trained at Yes Tomorrow, right? The Yes Tomorrow Design Build School. Y'all heard of it. We're going to be talking more about it. He worked as a builder and a consultant for a variety of high performance certified projects. So regardless of certification, Nick has been focused on addressing operational and embodied carbon concerns through the building envelope and the building envelope installation. With a BS in environmental education and 10 years of industry experience, please welcome Nick Shaw 475.
Nick Shaw 475 in the house. Yeah. What's up? I mean, I feel like we should almost do a little bit of dancing with this one. He's wicked smart. We're going to talk about all kinds of passive house stuff. You know what the greatest part is, Mark? Not only is he wicked smart, he actually has hands-on experience, not only at one of the top schools in Vermont, but also running jobs in project management and everything else. So welcome, Nick.
Thanks for having me, y'all. Really excited to be here. Thank you.
Yeah,
Awesome.
It's exciting. It's exciting. So, Nick, you know, we always start this show with some basic, simple questions. We found out all the good stuff about what you do before the show, but we're not going to share some of that stuff because it's pretty heavy stuff. But we are going to ask you to tell us a little bit about yourself. So we want to know everything about you from the moment you were born to this very moment in time, Nick. Don't leave out any of the good stuff from the hospital, or we will bring a family member on. And then Mark Wille's mom does come on and interview, and it would get quite ugly for you. So with that said, you only have about 2 minutes to do it. The floor is yours.
Yeah, born and raised in Richmond, Virginia. Went to college down in Warren Wilson, outside of Asheville, North Carolina. Saying that because it's also a trade work school, full farm, garden, blacksmith shop, and got into carpentry, renovating and building the faculty housing there. And started to work as just a general carpenter around town, and eventually found my way to Yes Tomorrow up in Vermont. Really fantastic design build school. Really, I want to highlight people to check that out. Seeing Yes Tomorrow certified, not sure what that means, but went to Yes Tomorrow. Got VS certified as a consultant and builder there, and then started to work as a project manager and consultant, really bouncing around the United States. Was out in Salt Lake City and Pacific Northwest for a while, until finding my way to 475 High Performance Building Supply, and was working out of their Brooklyn office and in the Hudson Valley for a number of years. And a few years ago, moved down to Asheville, North Carolina, and got a home that I'll mainly be talking about renovating today on today's show. Excited to be here. Hope I made that 2-minute cut.
You listen. I mean, I love the promptness, right? But we find that a lot with you building science guys. I mean, and gals, for that matter. So, all right, let's hop into this a little bit, Mark. So, Brooklyn, New York, down to Asheville, right? Asheville, Carolinas. There. What do you like better? You like Brooklyn or you like Asheville?
I
Oh,
oh, I miss all of the museums and shows and art, but I really love the hiking in the mountains. Nothing really can beat Asheville. It's kind of a small, gorgeous town. Yeah.
Wow, you can be a politician. Excellent answer. That was awesome.
that was
That was
perfect.
It was. It was. So, Nick, I want to learn a little bit more about your background. We're going to talk about, where you went to school, and what have you. But really, honestly, like, so you went to school. Tell us about your background in school, what you majored in, and then what was your first like gig when you got out of school? Walk us through your timeline, and then we'll get into what you're doing at 475.
Yeah, I study environmental studies with a focus on education, and I was kind of focusing on wanting to become a mycologist. That was kind of a goal of mine in college, and was really into field mycology and out there picking mushrooms and was selling to fancy restaurants. But to help pay for school was picking up carpentry work. It is a work college called Warren Wilson. It's just outside of Asheville in North Carolina. And then from there, had a fair amount of framing knowledge, was framing homes, and started to work the general day labor jobs. And this was about the time that the housing market crashed. So it was kind of hard to find work at the time, and was really mainly digging gravel and picking up whatever variety of odd job, hanging out in the Lowe's Home Depot parking lot and hopping in whoever's van for the day and picking up whatever I could. And started to get on a framing crew and was just doing that for a while, and then started the work learn program up at Yes Tomorrow in Vermont. So was the TA for all their design based classes and mainly their semester program, which is run through UMass Amherst. And that's a one to
Wow.
highlight if folks are in college and looking to delve into this stuff. And with that program, the students designed and built a tiny house for an actual client, which was nice.
So it's funny from I'm gonna leave the joke side of it to Dave because we got fun help in the private chat. But I grew up down the street from a mushroom factory.
Oh, they
And
stink.
so in an interesting way, it is great training for understanding the environment, right? Of spaces because of the darkness and the humidity that's produced in those factories. And maybe your research is more about those grown outside, but it's a climate that we don't want in our buildings. And your high performance experience allows you to take that, probably have a keen sense of smell, and know what to do differently.
Yeah, I think, coming from the natural science world, it's all about carbon cycles, these things that very much readily apply to the building science world. Since I've gotten more into the building science, it's funny that like I now look at the Weather Channel a lot more and kind of follow weather and understand weather better because I'm just thinking and having a mind for moisture and temperature interacting within our wall assemblies and things like that. So yeah, very similar world, and yeah, happy to be in it.
Yeah.
In my mind, I have a camera stationed with one of those stop motion features, and it's on a fallen stump, and the fallen stump is slowly taken over, right, by everything around it. So I think you're definitely the first mycologist on BS Friday Live,
Yep.
and
100%.
maybe the first one I met. So Dave, this is time for your joke.
Well, listen, first of all, I used to pick mushrooms in the South as well. Did you ever pick the wrong mushroom and eat it?
Uh, I have, and it's been uncomfortable, but luckily it's not too bad.
Right?
Yeah, and it's really just an excuse to go hiking of like keep your eyes down a little bit more and know what to grab and
Right.
just keep on hiking. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, you know
It's a
what?
quick cleanse. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, there you
It's a
go.
quick,
Yeah.
there you go. We won't go any further than that. So Nick, you know, it's funny, right? So when you get into, you know, being a mycologist and you're working with, you know, the fungi and the living organisms and the mold, they're tiny. They're really tiny. Like most of them you have to look at through a microscope, right? Other than a mushroom, of course, but how it's made up. And I think what's so valuable about that is you're somebody that pays attention to detail. And details matter when it comes to high performance. And to me, you know, that says a lot about you, like where your mind is, because I would just look down and be like, it's a mushroom. Or I'd look down and say, oh, it's a mushroom with a purple whatever on it. Like I know the difference in like those mushrooms, right? Not any longer. But the reality of it is, you look at it much differently. And I'm assuming, you know, that's what carried your passion into this space. You started looking at the weather patterns, the environments in which, because homes in where you live now are much different than homes in Brooklyn, you know, and how they need to breathe and operate and work and all those things. So I'm assuming maybe this was how did I do on a lead up to the conversation, Mark? Was that pretty good?
It was dead on.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of the typology as well. In Asheville area, are most of the homes stick framed, right?
They are. And I did kind of really delve into brick building when moving to New York City and those,
Right.
you know, old historic brownstones and such. And luckily, there's a lot of old historic photos of them building those brownstones. And
Yeah.
it's a really, really incredible, fascinating work. But for better or for worse, my own home is an old stone rubble wall. So I am kind of applying a lot of what I learned from up north in terms of masonry construction, not brick, but you know,
So can
similar
you
with the grout.
describe that another layer? So the stone rubble foundation wall, what is the dimension and configuration of how is it the stack? Is it the mortar stack? How did they do it?
On my home, it was stone rubble with the mortar. It's about a foot thick total, but there is a continuous concrete pour on the interior side.
Got it.
So it seems like they built some formwork on the interior side, was grouting and installing stone from the exterior, and then did a pour from the top to kind of fill between the formwork and fill in any cavities. So that was missed from the grout,
So for the high
as far as I can
performance
tell.
geeks out there, potentially that concrete in the middle could be the air barrier if it's consistent.
Yeah, I'm treating the concrete on the interior side and kind of touching up the exterior to make that stone as airtight as possible. Yeah, that poured concrete, continuous poured concrete is airtight if there's not a crack running through it, and that's a big if
Yeah.
for these existing homes. But yeah, up north, a lot of the historic masonry, the brownstones and such, the foundation is just stone rubble, and that was partly
Right.
done because it's a capillary break.
Right.
The stone is a capillary break, but brick is not, or poured concrete is not. So that's saving a lot of these old historic homes when they're renovating nowadays. So they're not trying to work in a capillary break that wasn't there.
So that is a huge factor that the stone rubble actually allows that moisture to not get in through the wicking brick. But then that's helping the moisture, but of course, our air is flowing through. So it's an interesting. We're benefiting and we're setting back. This is so interesting. I mean, those foundations are ranging from the 1880s to the 1920 somethings, and geez, the row homes and everything else. I mean, you've got a tremendous amount of brick in New York. This is really good conversation on these two things. I'm a geek about that.
You're just a geek in general. So I got a question on that. And I know we got a presentation to get into in a short amount of time. So when you actually have, you know, the dry stack stone, right, that does allow the moisture to come in. And then behind that stone, you have a bed of concrete, right, almost as a barrier from the entry into the home. When they do that concrete, was that done on the home you're talking about? Was it done after the fact, or was that done during the build of this house?
I don't know for certain, but I think it's during the build,
Hmm.
because there doesn't seem to be any gap between the stone and the concrete. So it was kind of poured directly against. I'm picturing that there was formwork on the interior side, and then there was stacking and grouting and then pouring from the top. But
Yeah.
I'm a little uncertain. There's no photos from of my home from back then, or
So
really any
What
data. Yeah.
year? What year, Nick?
I was told the late 1930s was when it was built. It is a carriage house, but not sure for what other home. There's no home neighbor nearby that seemed like the obvious that this was a
Oh, the
carriage house
original
for.
house is gone and the carriage remained.
yeah.
Yeah, so there might
Wicked
have been a
awesome.
fire that came through. The home is really set back from all the other neighbors, so I think the roads and neighborhoods was quite a bit different when it was originally constructed.
You said a fire came through and destroyed the.
That's my only guess of why there's not a nice kind of wood frame mansion next to me that that I'm the carriage house for.
Interesting. Carriage house survived, and the manor, right, or whatever that hoity-toity
It's
person
my
was.
best guess. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Well,
here's
I hope everyone was safe.
I
Let's
have
dial into Prezzo mode. Are you ready?
nope. So I wanted to finish my question on that,
Oh,
right?
sorry.
Yeah, because I think it's gonna help with the conversation.
Great.
So, that concrete one back in the 30s probably wasn't, anything more than, 2,000, 2,500 PSI when it's poured. So that means the concrete's probably porous as well, unless they put a barrier between that and the porous stone. How do you control? I mean, is that one, would that be true? And then two, I know the water can seep in, but how does the air get in to dry it? Can the air get in the same way the water's getting in, especially once you get into the soil and the dirt underneath and the drainage? So to me, this all leads into a really good question. Like these older homes, how do you stop that from wicking into your basement and I guess the likes? Because to me, it sounds like it's a hard thing to deal with.
Yeah, for better or for worse, they painted the interior side of the concrete at some point.
Yeah.
That might have happened in the 80s. I'm particularly bummed about that because that paint is creating a condensing plane. If it was the raw concrete that was left porous enough, I'd be very grateful for that. Like you can't really have condensation on a sponge.
Right.
Right.
It's so porous from that. So I do have a hard condensing plane from that paint that was applied at some point. There is no barrier between the concrete and the stone. I've had to drill through the concrete in a few areas, so I've been able to check for that type of
Hmm.
thing. And luckily, the home has been decently watertight. There was one small leak where the main water line enters the home, and that was my first big amount of renovation on the home. The bummer about it was actually under my foundation because my water
Oh,
pipe comes
Of course.
up through. So I had to kind of gopher tunnel my way under the home, and I waterproofed, but on the underside of the concrete slab, where that pipe penetrated, and then filled in and put in
Great.
yeah.
perforated pipe
That
and
that
such.
is
But
the quick, dirty, and fast. Right when they were doing that stuff, it just went in. But my guess is when you review the outside of the house, the grading and the water management that was naturally done in that era is the reason that all this works. And because they knew the foundation would get wet, and they knew that they could eliminate it and it would dry out. Is the best thing about what I heard and what you said is if they wouldn't have painted it, it would have helped you out. And I implore people to keep thinking about what was said there, because that is a factor of your mind's going to say, well, no, no, no. But again, Nick said he wants that water to keep running through it. So I'm sorry, not water, moisture. Um, you don't want the water to keep going through.
You
Sorry.
do. All right. So this is a great conversation for any of you out there in the YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, Twitter. Who am I missing, Mark? LinkedIn world. I don't know why I'm having a hard time with that today. If you have a stone foundation, let us know. Like, are you dealing with these problems? I mean, I would imagine there's a lot of you out there that deal with this on a regular basis. So we'll give you Nick's private phone number as soon as we get off the call here, and you guys can just call him directly. He's more than happy to help you. But in the meantime, you got to tune in for his presentation right now.
There you go.
As Jen said in the comments, are you stoned? I love it.
Level foundation. All right, Nick.
It's all yours, buddy.
Perfect. Yeah, I'm coming to y'all from 475 High Performance Building Supply. We're an e-commerce online website. We have all of our product info on our website, really good blog. Big thing to highlight is we have these free to download ebooks. Our smart enclosure ebooks. They come in PDF or DWG file for a variety of construction types. We have one just for historic masonry retrofits. We have one for wood frame retrofits, one for double stud, one for 2x construction. So check out the 475 website, 475.com or 475-supply.
In
US
fact,
and Canada.
you have thousands of examples in my, maybe not really thousands, but every single configuration I've ever thought of. This is a reference point that the entire industry goes to. I've spent weekend nights on this, and this is the God's honest truth. I love it. It's a great reference for everyone.
Thanks for saying that, Mark. Yeah, please check it out. Smart enclosure ebooks on the 475 website. This is my home. This is the Stonebone home. You can see the existing stone rubble wall there. Very small. It was listed. These are actually the Zillow photos from before when I got it. It was listed at about 600 square feet. The downstairs is kind of this big open studio that was not considered part of the floor space because the ceiling height was too low. So if it's below 7 feet, it can't be considered part of the floor space. And thus I was able to afford a home. So really want to highlight this to folks, and pretty immediately started removing that ceiling. And it was all just because of an existing furnace that had huge ducting, and they had this drop ceiling where the ducts were running beneath the floor system. So they were eating up a lot of their ceiling height with this furnace. For a really small home, I can't really believe that they were willing to give up half of the building's space by installing this furnace. So I'm really happy to say that all of this work I've been doing has been to remove the furnace. The furnace is now gone. The home is now fully electric and being heated and cooled with only mini splits.
So no more combustion gases in a small little space. You've grown your space and you've eliminated your health risks.
Exactly. And yeah, I do now have an induction stove cooktop. It's really really fantastic. Huge fan. Really encourage folks to check out induction cooking.
On that photo, Nick, am I actually seeing duct tape on that duct where that joint is? That's not mastic or foil tape.
No.
That's actually duct tape.
They didn't have mastic tape back in the 1930s, Mark.
But what that is a little scary sight.
Yeah.
What's your ceiling height now, Nick?
Now it's about 8 feet, or just, to the underside of the joist, it's like 7.5, and to the underside of the floor, it's about 8 feet. So
you really picked up some headroom, because you're 6'7", right?
6 foot just about, but yeah, no, it's been really nice. And along with that, losing the gas is also switching to a ventless dryer. So keeping, making sure we're staying airtight, that we're not exhausting our good heating and cooling loads there. But yeah, that's been a welcome addition. So for better or for worse, I'm actually doing 3 different wall assemblies on this home. Here I'm first showing doing all the work from the interior side of the stone. That's what the wall is right behind me that you're seeing in the background of my video. And this, what I'm showing on this slide here, is directly from the 475 ebook. I just adjusted some of the wording to make it my home specific. So we're showing brick in this image, but it's actually the existing stone rubble wall. That is what was existing. We removed some of the framing that was there. There was some old fiberglass insulation that was all moldy and gross. We treated the interior side with some Viscon, really just touching up the areas that had big cracks or had some blowout for whatever reason. Viscon is 475's liquid applied air barrier, waterproofing, and vapor control layer. So you can spray it on, you can brush it on, you can roll it on. And then we're framing in a wall. We're holding the framing a little bit off of that stone so that way we can insulate between the stud and the stone to help eliminate any thermal bridging. We're applying the Intello membrane to the interior side of that framing. That's an interior air barrier that's actually vapor variable. I'll show that a little bit more later on. And then I installed a service cavity. That's why you can see these horizontal wood strapping behind me. That's what will hold the drywall finish. And it's creating a cavity to run our electrical components.
So in a layman's term, the Intello going along the framing there is taking the air inside of your space and not letting that air get into your wall cavity, but it's also vapor smart so that if there happens to be some vapor that is on the backside, it's allowing it to pass through rather than be a condensation nightmare like the paint you spoke of earlier.
That's right.
Exactly. Yeah, big fan of the cellulose. It's hygroscopic, so it's helping distribute that moisture, distribute it evenly throughout its material. And yeah, trying to keep that conditioned air in the conditioned space so we're not having to go and meet the backside of the stone where it would condense. Or if we're talking wood framing, it would be the backside of the sheathing. So that Intello is really allowing me to not focus on a dew point analysis, not say how much exterior insulation do I need to push that dew point outboard of the sheathing layer, or in my case, the stone. So it's really key whenever we're doing a lot of the work on the interior side of our structure. Inherently, it's kind of best to insulate waterproof all on the exterior side of the structure. We want to keep that structure warm and dry. But for some, in my case, it's because we have nice, beautiful stone on that side facing out to the neighborhood that we want to leave exposed. So showing that first the Viscon that goes on blue, dries to black, or there's an all white version. It can bridge gaps, doing a lot of townhouse retrofits. We're doing a lot of like nitpicky transition details with the Viscon. And here you see that black and white stuff. That's the Viscon going on. You can see the green is the existing paint that was over that concrete. You can see that I Visconed up and onto all of that subfloor system, hitting that rim joist, and there's old 1x acting as my subfloor. And so I brought that Viscon out to at least where the Intello membrane would be, because I'll be using that to help transition my air barrier from the ground floor to the floor above, to my second floor.
This is a fanatic approach to be detail oriented. This is why this material is available in the brush, and he's giving you the play-by-play of there will be Intello coming. I am giving it a spot to create a connection, continuity in his barrier.
Yeah, a lot of projects start off with their air barrier as the house wrap, as the water resistant barrier. That's really easy to transition through floor systems because you're just running it continuous along that sheathing. But when you have an interior air barrier, your subfloor is going to interrupt that. So we're oftentimes, if it's new construction, able to wrap that membrane around, i.e. wrap the rim joist. But for retrofits, we're oftentimes having to air seal through that floor system.
Yeah, someone started this wall, Nick. Someone started this wall 70 years before you did. So it sat for 70 years, taking in, taking out, taking in, taking out. And now you're creating that incredible type thing. This is fantastic. Keep going, brother.
And that white pipe in the back is the existing gas line entering into the building. So part of this work was needing to first insulate and air seal to a certain degree so it's comfortable enough for us to install the mini split system. So we were doing a lot of this air sealing insulating so we could remove the gas eventually. Now showing what that looked like at the floor. Before we were talking about how that concrete airtight vapor permeable, that poured concrete, it turns out my existing slab did not have a vapor barrier beneath the concrete. So needing to install a vapor barrier. So that's what you're seeing, that plastic going down and taped. I'm also in a radon concern area, so it's also helping out with radon remediation concerns. And I'm lapping that up the wall, so it'd be kind of above where the exterior backsplash would be, or where I might have grade kind of push up against that wall down the line.
This is the best.
Creating an airtight layer out of there, because who knows if that concrete is actually airtight. There has been some cracks and things running through it. So that will eventually be everywhere. And installing some low-cost flooring on top that hopefully will offer a small amount of insulation. I'm unfortunately not able to insulate the slab of this existing.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was just kind of bring everything down to the structure instead of just adding another layer of unknown onto the existing unknown. So when we're doing these retrofits, really want to kind of expose the problems, bring it down to the existing structure as much as possible. With retrofits, we have a lot of kind of funny, nitpicky details that, you know, we can't really plan on. On the left, it was just one of the floor joists right up against that concrete and created this little gap that I stuffed insulation into, and then visconed over that to bring that viscon actually to the interior side of that joist. The wall is actually encasing that now. The new framed wall is all on the interior side of that. So I just kind of surrounded all of that and insulation and air sealing. On the right is pre-taping the Intello to where the windows meet that concrete.
Totally.
So that Intello is coming down. You can see the new wood framing being held off of that concrete. It was held off about 3/4 of an inch. But the framing and then insulation was going to restrict that area down the line. So we got that floppy bit of Intello installed now. So that way we can tape our windows to that down the line.
The planning, the visual of this for folks that can't get there, that's what the slide is for. It's an intentionality of holding that wood off so there's not the transfer. But then that floppy bit is what you see in the upper right-hand corner. It's ready to make that connection. So much intentionality. Well done, Nick.
Yeah, a lot of times we're sequencing for that complete and continuous air barrier. So, you know, making sure that your framers have that slip of membrane while they're in the framing stage of construction. Because this was really easy to do at this stage and was very low cost. But if it was forgotten, it would have been really expensive and labor intensive to access this area down the line. So a little bit different for all these different scenarios. So this is after the Intello has been installed. It's been dense packed with cellulose. You can see that billowing there. You can see just a little bit of the Intello showing through right there. That's what I'll tape to down the line. But also there's viscon to the concrete that the Intello is also taped to. So I could kind of connect my air seal my windows to either side of that on the interior down the line. And then that strapping. Sorry,
yeah. That's exactly what I was going to ask. So behind that Intello, again, folks, is the framing and the cellulose is pushing it out. The strapping that we see now running perpendicular, many people have no idea what the heck it is, Nick. So I cut you off right when you were about to say it. Go nuts.
Yeah, so 475, we call it a service chase or a service cavity. It's just creating a gap between your drywall finish and your air barrier. And it's for you to run your electrical components. So that way your outlets and such don't penetrate your air barrier. Drywall is airtight, but we want to treat it as a sacrificial layer. You can go online and read about the airtight drywall approach, but that has a lot of durability and longevity concerns when you're hanging a picture, but also transitioning through your floor system. We only need to air seal the shell of the building, the envelope. We don't need it within all of our interiors. It's really making our buildings a lot more adaptable. My
How thick
fiance
is
is
the
really
service
on board
cavity?
with it.
How
This is an 1.5 inches thick. So I'll be using those like pancake, shallow outlet boxes, and might
perfect?
need to kind of alcove out the cellulose in a few areas depending on what electrical components that we're running there. But there are other parts where we don't need to be doing this, but we're actually choosing to do it so we can throw in blocking and manipulate things down the line.
Right.
And make it so, oh, we want to remount a TV or whatever it might be. We can do all that without touching the air barrier, the insulation, the structure that's good for 100+ years.
Yep. And
While we're
anything you go to
mechanicals,
hang
yeah.
on the wall, you know where the blocking is. So you could technically go into the blocking. You never want to go past the blocking and get back into that air barrier. So it's all so well aligned. Beautiful.
Really helps with the cellulose install. Here, just kind of showing you do need to puncture the Intello to enter the cellulose nozzle, so you tape over that once it's done. Yeah, really, really nice and simple.
So
And this was
I,
mainly done by my fiance, who's an educator who has nothing to do with the construction industry, and she's really gotten on board with this stuff and is now custom building all of our vanities. She's got way more into finish fine woodworking. So now I'm mainly just kind of teaching her tool safety, and she takes it and runs with it. So it's really
so
fantastic.
let me ask you this. So just explain the process of how the cellulose gets in there. You said she did it. Did you rent a machine from Home Depot? Like, how did you do it?
Yeah, rented one of those blowers. The ones that are readily available, they are not all that good.
Yeah.
They don't quite get at the proper densities. So it's kind of a mix of that and hand packing, just kind of making it work with what we had available. But yeah, there's a large agitator that you crumple up the cellulose, you put it into that kind of mixes it up, loosens the cellulose, then blows it through a tube, and then you enter that tube or nozzle behind whatever barrier. The Intello has netting within it to support the dense pack of cellulose or these other types of fibrous insulation. You can blow in sheep's wool or fiberglass or mineral wool nowadays. It's not just cellulose. So big fan of cellulose. I like when we're putting the money to the labor and not the material.
Right.
As we can be really like doing low cost materials that might require more labor, but you're creating a good job for someone. You're not giving it to whatever manufacturer that your local material, installers won't see that.
Fabulous.
I have an announcement to make. You guys up for a good announcement? You guys up for some good news?
Yeah, bring it on.
Some good news just came into the chat. Connor Dillon is at the hospital with a tired wife and a newborn baby. So here's a shout out to Connor and his wife. Connor's been on our show. Well done. Well done to your wife, I should say. Well done. So, hey, listen, appreciate it, Connor. I know you probably can't stick around the whole show. So since you just put that in, I wanted to make sure that the rest of us out here saw it. And congratulations. We look forward to another BS baby. That's right.
I was going to say, are you going to name your child BS Friday? Don't do that, Connor.
No,
Congratulations.
No.
Health and happiness to your family.
Yeah. That'll put you in a whole different line of trouble with your wife. You pull that one off. All right, let's get back to it. Sorry about that, Nick, but it was big news. So we like to always support those that support us, and Connor's a big supporter. So thank you, Connor, for sharing. Congrats.
So this is just a little bit more on that Intello membrane, that interior air barrier, the white membrane you're seeing behind me. As Mark was saying, it's vapor variable. So in the winter, our vapor jet naturally wants to head to the exterior. Cold air is dry air. We have a low relative humidity. This is on the interior side of your installation. So your assembly is trying to dry outwards. It's a vapor retarder. It doesn't moisture load your assembly with your interior humidity. And then in the summer, we have warm air, our vapor jets naturally coming inwards. Higher relative humidity, this membrane becomes vapor open, allows that assembly to dry inwards before we run the risk for mold growth.
And
so
it's not
big
magic. It's science. It is amazing that that material exists, because it is reacting so that we don't have a catastrophic problem. Most buildings have a catastrophic problem. They really do. Like, we can sit there and talk about the solution, but oftentimes we step over all the problems that are out there. You explained it a second ago better than anyone. So I just wanted everyone to really look at that. You can read that slide 10 times in a row. You might not get it for a while, but what he's saying is this is your safety net.
Yeah, and just having that interior air barrier, regardless of vapor variability, is keeping that conditioned air in the conditioned space. So it's not allowing your warm air to go and meet that cold backside of that sheet, or in my case, the masonry. And it also means you can readily fix these air barrier leaks. It's right behind your drywall. It's not very costly to access that.
Amen.
So big fan of interior air tightness. This is me shining a light of where my gas line used to be. So you can see how I had to hold off all of that insulation, all the Intello, to allow that access, and then was eventually able to remove that gas line. And now I have an empty bay that on the right I filled. That's, you can see it kind of patched in there. Again, just like sequencing, if you're not able to do all the work at once, future proof it so you're able to kind of come back and make that air barrier continuous down the line. And this is all because now I have mini splits installed.
This is so progressional. The sequencing it's an art form and a talent that you've applied as you find the time to get to all these tasks. But this is a reminder of the millions and millions of homes out there that have been around like this 50, 60, 70, 90 years. And then you look at that sexy, sleek, healthy thing on the left photo. Tell us what that is, Nick.
Yeah, 2-ton mini split, 2 different registers, 2 heads on the interior, 1 outdoor heat pump. Has saved me money already this winter. November compared to last year, overall I saved about $40. This past December, overall it was about $60 in savings. And I've been way more comfortable. So I'm running it a lot higher and longer than I ever touched my furnace. So yeah, very grateful.
I have a question as I'm looking at the picture on the right as well. When you put that lath board on, right, to create that air barrier between your sheetrock and the insulation, I got 2 questions. When you screw that in, is there anything you're doing in between the wood and the stud behind it that you're screwing into, or the concrete or whatever's right? That's my first question, and for everybody else. And then 2, how tight is that wood going? Are we compressing that insulation all the way down, or are we leaving a little bit of space, a little bit of space behind it? But then I would think it would move. So help us understand that a little bit.
Yeah, the Intello membrane is mechanically fastened. It's installed with staples. As long as you're pinching the membrane, it will stay airtight. So it's only if you miss a stud behind it that you would then want to tape over. So those screws are going directly through and dying into the wood framing behind it, and it is pinching that membrane to stay airtight. And that strapping that wood is actually helping prevent the cellulose from billowing any further. So it is tight to the vertical 2x framing that's behind it. You're seeing the insulation stick past because it was dense packed, because it was installed at enough density to create that pressure against the membrane. And I'm installing it to that density so it self-supports.
Yeah.
A lot of the concerns about cellulose is it's settling over time. That's just from it not being installed to the proper density.
To add to Dave's great question, the strapping, did you apply before the cellulose install or after the cellulose install?
Before the cellulose install. So it actually helped prevent the billing during the actual install of the cellulose. So yeah, it actually simplified and made it run a lot quicker.
Because visually you can see the consistency of, as you're calling it, the billowing or the convex and the convex and the convex.
Yeah, you kind of want it to feel like a mattress in terms of firmness, or you could cut some out at the bottom or remove some and see if anything settles. And then if it wasn't installed at a strong enough density to self-support.
If anyone has ever packaged presents for Christmas or for Valentine's Day or a birthday, you will be an expert at working with products like Intello. And whoever did that cut and tape job on there, it looks better than almost any gift wrap I've received. Beautiful, Nick.
Yeah, and looks like reclaimed lumber too. It doesn't look like all fresh lumber. It looks like you're recycling lumber you had laying around. You do not have to use brand new stuff as long as it's bug free.
Correct. Yeah, that wall is not structural at all. So it was 100% reclaimed lumber. Really just held on to the same studs that were there, and also a lot of that ceiling strapping was one by. So I'll be using that elsewhere. But yeah, saving as much as I can from removing things.
Oh yeah, you had a ton of wasted material in your ceiling height, and then you just used it again. You saved yourself a lot of time and work.
Exactly. Yeah.
Mateo, got it. All right, go ahead, Dave. Nick, go for it.
So now I'm doing all that work on the exterior side of the stone. One of my side walls and my rear wall, I have really tight lot lines to where my building is. I don't really have a backyard. My backyard is about 3 feet. So we were insulating all that on the exterior, mainly also so we don't need to deal with the existing stairwell. Of trying to do that work on the interior side would have meant having to move that stair stringer and fur out all of that. That would have been too much work. On the exterior sides on the left of the image, we will have a new siding, just whatever wood siding, a vertical strapping to create a rain screen, a drainage plane and vented cavity. I have 5.5-inch thick of mineral wool. It's a mineral wool board. The cavity rock board that actually changes density midway through the board. So it's kind of almost like a bat material on the interior side and more of a rigid board on the exterior. Because my stone was an uneven substrate, I wanted a board that can compress and follow those uneven undulations.
That's amazing.
Yeah, that's from rock wool. I touched up the exterior side of the stone with little bits of Viscon and any major cracks or blowouts. Didn't luckily need to do any regrouting work. And then I'm also touching up the interior side where the paint is to make that airtight as well. And then I'm having a service cavity just for electrical and then drywall. You can insulate the service cavity. We're kind of throwing insulation wherever we can, but it's fairly uneven. So the first exterior thing, this was me digging and tunneling underneath the house to waterproof where there was a water leak of the existing main water line entering the building. Wow. But you can see that brick on the left is my neighbor's shed. So this is my side yard. It's all of 4.5 feet. So yeah, touching up a lot of stuff. No vapor barrier underneath the existing concrete. Not much of a footer either. So was putting in new perforated pipe drainage, things like that. Here's all the rock wool. A good amount of it still sitting outside. A little bit hard to get. So if you can get it, get all that you need. Here's it going in. So just a through bolt from that wood strap all the way through that mineral wool to the stone on the other side. So an unexpected expense for me was those bolts are expensive. That insulation's 5.5-inch thick. The board's another 1.5 inches, and I wanted it to bear at least about an inch and a half into the stone. So those were some pricey bolts. Yeah. And a lot of work to be doing in the summer. But it's pretty much all done now. Again, really tight lot lines, using interior scaffolding because it's thinner, it's not as wide, directly against the neighbors. In the back, it was actually over the fence for good chunks of it, and the neighbor has a dog biting at us the whole time. But in this photo, I'm installing what will be the header flashing. Again, the rain screen is kind of outboard of our insulation, but the waterproofing is at the stone. So trying to kick the water into the rain screen plane And mineral wool kind of allows drainage within it. It's best not to get wet, but it's not the worst thing. So doing the best to keep it dry, but focusing more on keeping the structure dry and waterproofing
How
and
many
air
how
seal like
many
that.
bolts? How many bolts, Nick?
Few hundred, yeah, quite a few, yeah.
So when the neighbor's baby was trying to sleep, all they heard was the bulldog.
Yeah, yeah, that big old hammer drill going in, and yeah, the neighbors barking at that even more so. Yeah.
So remember, if you see Nick at a trade show, don't arm wrestle him. He put in thousands of bolts.
But yeah, very simple. Again, just like really kind of easy, dumb work, just doing it over and over again. So nothing particularly difficult about this, just a through bolt going all the way through.
Perfect. Great photo of that application too. Really sharp. What do you got
Yeah,
here?
here just showing rain screens. Unfortunately, it seems to be fairly new to a lot of folks. Big fan of rain screens. Encourage it for all the projects. It's a vented and drainage plane behind on the interior side of your siding, outboard of your water resistant barrier, outboard of your house wrap. If your siding's running vertically, then we're oftentimes doing what's called a counter batten system, i.e. the batten running against the house wrap's vertical and then another one outboard that's horizontal to hold your vertical siding. Whatever is against your house wrap should be running vertically, so you're at least allowing drainage there. Ideally, also
100%.
venting.
So that's the middle photo that people are looking at because they chose the vertical cladding. They run the furring strip with the stud holding the WRB tight, and then there's a cross one running horizontal, and that's what you're fastening to.
Correct. And we're doing a similar thing for our high performance pitched roofs as well. Once it's a 312 pitch or greater, it tends to be best to vent above the roofing underlayment below your finished roof material. So we're oftentimes not baffle venting. We're not venting beneath the sheathing, which is pretty common practice. The concern with that practice is you're introducing that wet air into your insulation, which can moisture load that assembly, that insulation, but also create wind washing, thermal bypass, or convective loops that can move within your insulation layer and greatly reduce the R value. Don't want to do that for flat roofs. There won't be enough of a pressure differential to move that fresh air or allow any drainage, but for a pitched roof, it is best practice. So
How does one
that's what we're showing here.
reference the space that they need and that space based on pitch? Because that pressure point that you talked about, I mean, there's some physics involved with that.
Yeah, I think a lot of folks are making that drainage plane too thin. I like to see it at least 3/8, 5/8, half inch, 3/4. That's all great. I have seen folks trying to make it like an 1/8 or a 16th, and it's really just a drainage plane. Then you're not really venting. Be concerned about frost heaves and things like that. So unless you're in fire country, I would say, thicker the better in terms of what that drainage plane would be. And if it's a lower pitch, then you want to increase that gap.
I would say the 3/4 I like as well, because exactly what you said, any condensation and or water that gets through that, yes, that's draining, but with that ventilation, the back side of what you have has a chance to air out, to dry.
Yep.
Nick, you look like you were pretty close there, and Jennifer made a comment in the section as well. And I was thinking this, that scaffolding that was going up, that was the neighbor's house right behind you on the sidewall.
Yeah, that's their garage or their kind of storage area.
Right.
But yeah.
So you're adding what, around 7-8 inches of additional what thickness to the wall? Do you have setback issues in the Carolinas there, or is it kind of like the Wild West still?
It worked out for my property. I think if I was in more of a less of a residential area, that would be more of a concern. I am right on the line. My neighbor's house is for sale, and luckily they had some surveyors come out to survey their property, and
Yeah,
they just walked over and did mine while they were there. So I was really happy to see where they placed the flags. I was like, perfect. Like, don't bring it any closer. You are right on my line of what is acceptable for my exterior installation. So
Great.
yeah,
Yeah, and the
luckily that worked out.
materials you chose, because Dave brings up a great point, and the materials you chose are for fire safety management as well. So combustibles is a different point, but yeah, always a factor. Your proximity, your zoning, your setback, whether you're permitted or whether you're the Wild West or whether your neighbor likes you or hate you, all variables, thousands
Yeah.
of questions.
Super,
Yeah.
super important when you are that close. I mean, literally, you're 7 feet away from that house and only maybe 4 or 5 feet away from the ridge line there. Having rock wool and that fire protection barrier, even though you have stone there, I'm sure is a big deal, and I'm sure they wanted that by code anyhow.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, Dave. So all the houses, I would say 85% of the residential stock in Chicago, the houses run east to west, west to east, and our lots are 25 feet wide. So you have the setbacks in between them. So kind of like what you see in New York there. But then, yeah, when you get the overhangs of these houses at the top, I mean, sometimes the gutters almost touch.
Yeah.
It's crazy. You can
Nick.
walk through the gangways of these buildings and actually not get wet.
Yeah. Nick, did they make you change that window to a fire safety window?
They haven't. I'm uncertain if they will down the line.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to replacing the windows and doors, but it will be some time before finances allow me to change my windows. Yeah.
Sure. Great. Sorry. Go get back to it there, because I've never seen anybody put a roof over a roof the way you're doing it. I love that. That's a cool picture, and I don't think a lot of people realize they can do stuff like this. You don't drive around and see a renovation often where they're doing that. They're all sitting there saying, "Well, that looks really crappy with my 1-inch eave now that doesn't give me the protection from my house." Right? I mean, this is amazing.
Yeah. Thank you. So I will be doing an addition, so a little bit of new construction. The dimensions on this are not proper, but they are labeled correctly. So we have the left side is the exterior. I'll have my horizontal siding. I'll have my vertical wood by 2x4 to create that strapping drainage plane rain screen. I'm using that same 5.5-inch thick mineral wool insulation just because I bought enough of it. I'm then using the Adhero membrane, which is a peel and stick membrane from 475, doing that over 1/2-inch plywood, 1/2-inch CDX plywood. I'm framing with 2x6 just because I like the structural stability of it. I could get away with 2x4s. And then I'm having that Intello membrane with dense packed cellulose between the studs and then the service cavity again. So this, I've not started construction on the addition quite yet. Haven't even poured the foundation for it, but this is the plan for what the plan is for that. Just highlighting that Adhero membrane, peel and stick, fully adhered, like a giant piece of tape, pretty much. You just overlap the seams and it adheres to itself. For my area, being a hot, humid, that vapor drive oftentimes coming from the exterior inwards, I really like this over plywood for my climate zone. Really, anytime in climate zone 4 and below, I like having like a class 3 vapor retarder on the exterior, not truly vapor closed, not EPS insulation, something more permeable than that. So this is really working well for my climate. And what's nice about this newer technology, these monolithic membranes, is that it can be the same membrane for your roof and your wall. It's waterproof enough. The old style of construction, what's more readily available at Lowe's and Home Depot, that's the microporous membranes, or those little holes in the membrane that oftentimes expand or contract based on moisture content. And that's how these membranes are being vapor permeable, is with those pores. But wood tannins can break down those pores, or they can clog and deteriorate them. So there's a lot of durability concerns and longevity concerns with the Tyvek, Typar, Blueskin types of products out there.
This is really interesting. I learned something today. Wood tannins can not, you said break down the pores or fill in the pores? What am I hearing?
Yeah, they're kind of deteriorating that pore. They're they're kind of spreading it out and making it so as microporous has more pores than it needs. It's kind of it can clog as well. But to me, the big thing is like, oh, I can have my roof directly lap onto my wall and have that be the same membrane. And it really eases a lot of those transitions. And kind of now showing what my pitched roof assembly would be, to be able to have my roof membrane come and directly lapped over, and this wall one will just kind of tuck right in there to get that air seal connection. Still shiplapping everything, but just allowing it to shed as well. And I'll be doing what's called applied rafter tails, or there's kind of a box beam to create that overhang or eave to shed the water away from the building. So that way you don't have a thermal bridge.
Yep.
Yeah, if they ran continuous, it would be an air leak concern, but also a thermal bridge concern.
We cannot wait to see the rafter tails that your wife cuts. I'm sure they're going to be really slick.
Yeah, really, really excited about doing the roof. I actually have some skylights as well, so excited about installing those.
You should check out Lamelux. They're really awesome.
Yeah, I hear. Quick rundown of here we have a section, so finished roof on the very top, some type of metal roof, now using a lath system to create that drainage plane, the adhero membrane directly against that roof sheathing for me will be plywood. We have an existing joist. I'm sistering or kind of furring down to make mine a little bit deeper to house more cellulose insulation, and then the Intello Plus membrane on the interior side. To be honest, if I didn't have the Intello, I'd probably want to get some exterior insulation. But by having that interior air barrier, I'm comfortable not having that exterior insulation.
Oh, brilliant. Brilliant distinction. Timestamp to everyone at 2:11 Eastern time. Listen to what Nick said 3 times there. This is a repeat watch episode. Great distinction there. Love that.
Appreciate it. And yeah, having the wall insulation run up to meet that, and then the adhero connecting continuously and the Intello connecting continuously on the interior. So actually 2 air barriers, the exterior for the stone, treating it with Viscon, and then where there's new construction, it being the adhero membrane, and then the Intello membrane on the interior side of both the stone and the new construction.
So the rule of thumb is you can use a lot of air barriers, and you want to connect them and connect them be continuous with how they flow together. Your vapor barriers, you want one, and never put a vapor barrier if you don't know what you're trapping in, right? You're keeping something out, but you have to know what you're trapping in. So these are, again, all these slides are available while Nick's sleeping, while Dave's sleeping, while I'm sleeping. 475, check them out, and you can go nuts with this information. It's beautiful.
Thanks. Yeah. One of the few areas where I do recommend a true vapor barrier is the top side of a flat roof. And my addition will be a flat roof, so what is a porch will continue to be a walkout, except it'll be the addition's roof. The upstairs second floor will walk out onto the roof of the addition. And yeah, that vapor close EPDM or TPO roof membrane for me, it'll be an EPDM, really deep cavity with a lot of cellulose blown in there, and then the Intello membrane on the interior side. So yeah, we're not venting a flat roof. The Intello membrane really does save me with the flat roof, because I'm not allowing that assembly to dry through diffusion towards the exterior at all. Because I could have pools of water up there. It's a flat roof. It should shed a little bit, a small pitch, but it's not going to be all that much. So yeah, I'm really being vapor closed against grade when I'm touching the soil, because soil is always wet. The vapor drive is always coming inwards, or anytime I'm having a flat roof, really any exterior horizontal surface. Similarly, I'm being vapor closed for my sill tape for my windows, but I'm being vapor permeable for taping my jambs and headers, because I'm allowing drainage in those spots. I won't have any standing water. So I don't want to vapor dam, especially where I have a high temperature differential at my window installs.
Beautiful.
So yeah, big fan of the Intello. It's really saving me a lot of work on the exterior. When I'm looking at these assemblies, these enclosures, I have an order of importance, shedding the water really being number one. Then I'm focusing on air tightness. Then I'm thinking about how it's going to dry through diffusion, as Mark was saying, not having multiple vapor barriers. I don't want to trap the moisture between two vapor closed materials. That's how we get wood rot, mold growth, things like that. And then lastly, I'm thinking about thermal control, the R value. How can I create those warm interior surface temperatures? So yeah, I think the industry's gotten kind of tunnel vision on the R value, and really happy that folks like you and others are really, preaching the air tightness as where a lot of
Yeah,
that
before
performance
you
comes
get to
from.
insulation, get to air control, get to vapor control, and don't forget thermal brakes and passive house certified windows and doors.
Yeah,
Fresh air machine.
I'm air sealing my home, so I gotta breathe. So I'm providing that direct through wall HRV. So it's providing balanced ventilation without any ducts. Just a unit through the wall. They work in pairs. When one unit's exhausting, the other one's supplying. It's capturing it's capturing the indoor temperature and passing it on to that incoming fresh air. And then there's a version for the bathroom that does exhaust only mode as well.
Perfect.
So this is again through 475, the Luna system, decentralized HRVs, no ducting. I wish it had an ERV version. I am in a pretty humid climate. I would like to transfer that latent energy that an ERV offers, but they don't really make a decentralized ERV quite yet.
Yeah,
So
because of the
sticking with
space
this
and
because I don't
everything
want
that's needed.
ducts.
Right.
Yeah.
Great product.
That's cool. I don't know how many people have ever seen that before, Mark. That may be running around in the passive house and the energy efficiency world, but that is not running around in the mainstream knowledge of the average builder consumer out there. I'd be willing to bet they do not even know that product exists.
It is if you picture a regular gallon paint jug, that is the size of roughly a paint jug turned sideways. It's aesthetically pleasing, and gosh, you can't hear this thing. I'm telling you, it's amazing. But again, this thing, the one blows in while the other one sucks out, and then it changes. They talk to each other to create that flow. And then, as he mentioned, for the bath in particular, that's exhaust only mode, which is so important because of our showers and commode and whatnot. Nick, we got to jump to a couple of questions and comments. We are already looking to have you back on BS Friday Live. Second show of this season, and you're killing it in North Carolina. And I hope you make a lot of friends today because you're the guy to talk to.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. Yeah,
thanks. Absolutely. And listen, I got a couple things I want to put up too. We wanted to put this up tomorrow. If you're not familiar with it, you want to check this out. This is where folks like Nick get trained and help train the next generation. So it's a really, really cool place. So if you're going leaf peeping in Vermont, or maybe you're looking to break a leg on a ski slope, well, there's the place to go right there. Swing by and check them out. Hopefully you don't break the leg, but you know the saying and how that goes. So wanted to make sure we got that shout out in there as well. We do have
Dave
some
and I are
comments.
jealous. Both of us have wanted, we talked before the show, wanted to take courses there. And, we're tied to these other obligations, but hey, maybe Dave and I will do a summer camp one time.
You never know. Hey, that's it, right? Wouldn't that be a lot of fun? We could do a show up there, Mark. That'd be cool.
We'll do the red flannel team and the blue flannel team.
That's right.
Of course, no one's going to join my team. They're all going to join Dave's.
Well, I've been flashing up. I mean, a lot of you put comments up. We can't get to everybody. It's been a long show. We're going to get to a couple quick ones here and just say hi to some folks that we like to say hi to. If we haven't during the show, a few shout outs we gave. Sandra Lesta. It's the 13th anniversary of founding her company as well. That's worth a celebration. Maybe some air horns. All right. Listen, you made it over the hurdle by like 7 years. Awesome. Well done. Appreciate you joining us today. Hey, we got Greg Ugaldi in the house. Well, speaking of Greg Ugaldi, it's good to see you. He will be on the show Monday with John McGeary. So you want to join us this Monday back to IBS Las Vegas. That's what we're going to be talking about. So you definitely don't want to miss it. We're going to have a great conversation. Really looking forward to having them on the show as well. And wait until you find out who's coming on Wednesday. But we'll get to that in a minute. Adam White in the house. What is up? Look at that. Another air barrier guy. Another guy that loves to seal stuff up. Good to see you, Adam. And it'll be really nice to see Adam at IBS this year as well. Who is going? Put in the comments. Are any of you guys going? You should be there. We're growing. We need the National Association of Home Builders to help us change code and do everything they can do. It's easier to do it together.
All the folks that have watched today, all the folks commenting, questioning, and when you pass this on to other folks, reach out to Nick, let him know you've enjoyed the presentation, and say hello. This is why these connections are here. And favorite topic today, Nick. This is amazing.
Yep. And we're not done with the comments here. We got a couple more. I am just looking. Jen, I know you put in the notes this next comment. I'll find it. I'm going to put it up. Mark, you can read it, my friend, and we'll keep rocking and rolling here. LinkedIn user.
Got it. So once the brick is exposed, repaired, and repointed, could a full lime mortar layer be used to replace the liquid Viscon? I'm interested to hear what Nick says, but I'm gonna guess before he says it that after that is done and cured. Thank you for
that's Fody, by the way.
Foti.
Foti.
I would still go ahead and use the Viscon, but before I did that, I would call and ask the folks at 475 and describe the scenario. Go ahead, Nick.
I'm a big fan of lime. I'm a big fan of lime plaster, natural fungicide. It tends to be a vapor retarder when it's dry. It becomes a little bit more permeable once it gets moist or high relative humidity around it. I tend to think of like, oh, that's a low-cost material that requires a lot of skill to install. And so if you have the crew around and that labor available, go with that route. That's fantastic. The Viscon saves you on the labor. Higher cost material, really easy to install, low cost to install. You can brush it, you can roll it, you can spray it. So it's saving you from needing the knowledgeable labor that you would need for a lime plaster install. But big fan of lime, big fan of clay, big fan of a lot of these natural plasters.
You're the best, Nick. Go ahead, Dave.
All right, Jonathan Finewood. What's happening, Jonathan? I joined late. Did you mention what the blower door reduction was up to at this point?
That was my question. When you got this property, was there a blower door test, or did you just know you needed to tackle everything? So,
yeah, no blower door test has been done. Not currently. My windows and doors are so bad I can see daylight and actually get water and rain through them at times currently still. So I'm doing some stuff on the exterior to kind of touch that up in the meantime. But yeah, the windows and doors are a huge leak currently.
Yeah, and I would say for folks that don't have the level of detail, don't have the level of knowledge that Nick has, yes, you would start with the blower door from somewhere there and reference it. And my guess is you'll probably have a blower door at some point, maybe even before the windows and doors become, an affordable sequencing part. But we can tell this rim and band and the window detailing and the added cavity service cavity you produce. We can tell that your air barrier, bringing it into the floor, bringing into those I don't notice often regions are superb. Great point, Jonathan, and great detailing, Nick.
Love it, love it, love it. All right, Aaron Jones is going to be at IBS this year. Looking forward to it. And he's going to bring along a gray flannel, Mark. It's a neutral color, he said. That way he will not be you and he will not be me and we won't be fighting each other. I wouldn't want to fight him anyhow. Anybody with a construction company named Big Dog is not somebody I want to tangle with, quite honestly. But he did have a Big Dog question as well, or a comment. Always a great idea to check the bones, whether concrete or wood, before covering anything, was the first one. And then here's the other one. It's the number one issue I see with cedar shingles applied directly on top of Tyvek. The higher the tannins, the higher the potential for issues. I wonder, was that part of your thing, or I know there was a lot of banter and I was picking it out of the audience there.
Yeah, he was listening to what Nick said, and so Nick, Aaron is about as far east as you could get if you're standing in Maine and then you hop to some of the islands there in Canada, the island of Grand Manan on the Atlantic. He's facing that, and so those cedar shingles are getting ripped. So if Aaron says it, it's probably something to remember. Perfect. Hope you two connect.
Yeah, definitely connect. All right, last but not least, this Wednesday, 3 steps to home build. Guess what? This is Agoras. They are new. They have a $25 million backing already coming through, or it already came through. And also Navy SEALs. This is a company full of Navy SEALs, and you're looking at one of them right there. This is a show you're not going to want to miss. They are taking the built environment with AI, with robotics. They have a 3-step home build process. It's going to be pretty interesting to listen to what they're doing. So
there's a virtual reality type glasses there.
Augmented reality. Yeah, it's no different than BIM, right? But you can walk through and visualize everything, but also they're using robots in their factory to build as well. And they're doing more of a panel approach from what I've learned so far. But the technology, the AI, and the stuff that they are bringing to the market, proprietary, is what's making them different and hopefully going to make them winners. We need more smart folks like Nick in the world.
George Jetson, your day has come. We are here. Beautiful thing.
Awesome. Awesome. Hey, Nick, thank you so much for joining us today. I hope you had a wonderful, wonderful time. You did an excellent job in your presentation, and I think Mark is right. We would love to have you back on the show when you get a little further to completion on the project. It would be great to see what the testing results came out to be on the house. And I also want to know if they gave you a hard time on that fire window. I won't say anything, but it is kind of out there now that we're talking about it. Just saying.
Appreciate it. Thanks so much for having me. Looking forward to coming back. Thank you.
Appreciate you guys. All right, Mark, who do we got coming up next week?
So we're going to fast forward 6 days, less than 23 hours. Our friends at Sashco are going to be joining us. So if you're on the LinkedIn machine, you've already seen that posted in the comments. If not, we'll see you on Friday. Nick, this has been incredible. Team at 475 does sleep. When they sleep, you go to that website and you can just figure out your walls, share it with your neighbors who are having wall problems, find a professional, become a professional, and enjoy the work that is in front of us. Thank you, Nick. Thank you, Dave. Thank you, everyone, for being here.
All right, everybody, have an awesome, awesome weekend. We will definitely see you next week for sure. Nick, you stay tight right there with 475, and the rest of you, we'll see you soon. Thanks for watching, everybody. Bye now.